everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Darian and today I'm going to be talking about books that have fall vibes. So as we all know, fall is upon us. You can't deny it any longer, okay? It is fall now. And I thought it would be fun to talk about books that I've read that I think would be good to read during the fall time. So if you're looking for fall recommendations, you have come to the right place. Now, a lot of these books, am I recommending them because I read them during the fall season and now I associate it with the fall? Maybe so. But it's fine. I'm still gonna recommend them because these are all books that I have given 4 or 5 stars and I love them all very much. So I hope you guys enjoy. I do have my pumpkin mug with me. This mug is so cute. I got this mug and a little ghosty mug from Indigo and it's so cute. Anyways, so let's just get started. Now, I'm not going to give super detailed synopses of these books because, to be honest, a lot of these I read over a year ago. I do not remember everything about these books, so I'll just explain a little bit of what I remember about the plot and why I think these books give off fall vibes. So first and foremost, I mean, I think we all saw this one coming. This is like the top tier fall book. It's amazing and I did read it last fall and the vibes were just immaculate, but that book is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This is like the ultimate dark academia book. I have a feeling everyone watching this has probably heard of this book. Essentially, this follows this group of students at this boarding school and they kind of get caught up in a murder and things just go from there. That's all I'm gonna say. This book is wild. I know not everyone loves it. Sasha. This was one of the book club picks for our book club and I loved this book so much. I gave it 5 stars. I know some other people in the club didn't like it as much, but I highly recommend this book. I think the fall vibes are just out of this world. There's also a pretty big section of the book that takes place during the autumn time and the descriptions of like the atmosphere and the weather and just oh, it's so good. Like, you know how everyone starts watching Gilmore Girls at the beginning of the fall season because it gives off fall vibes? Like, I find this is the equivalent of that. Not like this book has any similarities to Gilmore Girls, okay? I'm not saying if you like Gilmore Girls, read The Secret History. I'm just comparing the vibes, okay? But first of all, I feel like murder is very fall vibey, you know, dark academia, obviously. And Donna Tartt's writing in this book is just so immaculate and beautiful. Like, I just couldn't help but get sucked into the writing of this book. And even though the story itself is not cozy, I find this is a cozy story to read. So I think this would be perfect for fall time. So I cannot recommend this book highly enough. I love it so much. So definitely read this during the fall season. The next book I feel like is another obvious choice because it is a little spoopy, but that is The Diviners by Lippa Bray. I read this first book last October and I still haven't continued the series, but I really want to because I really loved this book. This book follows this girl named Evie and it takes place in the 1920s and she is kind of a party girl and her parents kind of want her to settle down, so they send her to live with her uncle in New York City in the 1920s. I don't know why they thought that would help calm her down, but anyways, so she goes to live with her uncle and then some murders start happening and he is investigating those murders, and we also find out that Evie kind of has this special power where when she touches objects she can see like the memories of the objects, so she kind of helps out with this murder investigation. And again, the vibes of this book are immaculate. 1920s New York. What could be better than that, honestly? And I just love the different powers that the different characters have in this book. This book has a pretty big cast of characters and I love so many of them. I remember there was one, I think his name was Jericho. Is that his name? Jericho. Oh my god, I got it right. I loved him so much. I don't remember that much about what happens in this book, but I remember it definitely felt right reading it in October because it definitely gets a little spoopy at times. Like, this is not the scariest book you're ever gonna read, but I feel like for a YA book, it gets pretty spoopy. So definitely read this if you're especially want to get into the Halloween mood, especially because different characters have different powers. I feel like that's also very Halloween-y. So yeah, definitely check this one out. Next, I have one of my favorite books. I know a lot of people, now that this book has been out for a while, a lot of people don't love this book. When it first came out, everyone seemed to love it. Then now everyone kind of seems to not like it, but I still love it, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I just Love this book so much. This is another pretty popular book on BookTube, so I'm sure you all know what this is, but essentially you're following this girl named Addie LaRue, who I think the beginning is like the 1700s. Yeah, 1700s. And she's basically supposed to marry this old man that she really does not want to marry. Like, she doesn't want to give up her freedom. So she comes across this godlike figure and ends up making a deal with him. And the deal is that she will live forever, but any person who ever comes across her, as soon as they turn away from her, they will forget her. So she lives for 300 years going through life, not making any connections with anybody because no one will ever remember her. They can't even remember her name. She can't even say her own name out loud. Like, she is essentially erased from history, even though she is part of the history books basically. And you know, the god ends up being one of the dark gods that you're not supposed to pray to. So she's kind of in a pickle. And this story is just, it's very somber, which I feel like, especially, you know, seasonal depression kind of goes with that. And it's a very slow-paced book, and I feel like fall is the perfect time to read books that are slow and books that like take its time for you to get lost in the story. Like, I feel like fall is just the perfect time to read a book like this, and you could just cozy up with your hot chocolate or your coffee or your tea, whatever you like to drink, and just get lost in Addie's life. And I love this book so much. The writing is so beautiful. Some of the most beautiful writing I've ever read. So this I definitely recommend to read during the fall. So next I actually have a series to recommend to you guys, and that is the Tea Dragon Society series, but specifically the last book, which is the Tea Dragon Tapestry, because look at this cover. Like, if you Google fall, then this picture will come up. Like, this is the ultimate fall vibes. Look at the beauty of that. Let me see if I can find... This volume especially is just full of fall colors. Like, look at this. Can you see that? Ugh. Ugh. Beautiful. But the whole series in general, I think, is the perfect thing to read during the fall time, because the whole story is so cozy and cute and wholesome, but also very meaningful. And it's about these dragons, and they grow tea leaves from their antlers, and when you make tea from these leaves, then you see their memories and your memories with them, and it's just so beautiful. And there's also such great representation in these books as well, and I just love them so much. They will definitely put a smile on your face, and I feel like if you're looking for a cozy graphic novel to read during the fall, then I would definitely read these books. But like I said, especially this one, because look at it. Fall. So yeah, definitely recommend. Next we have one of my favorite books of all time. I love this book so much, and that is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This is one of the books that I read last year during fall, and it was such the perfect time to read this book, because this book also takes place in a school. I don't know if this is considered dark academia, but it takes place during a school, like a boarding school, which again, those vibes just fit fall so well. It's about this girl named Bree who, at the very beginning of the book, her mother passes away in a car accident, and then Bree ends up going to this college in a early college program, and her first night there she witnesses a magical attack, and she realizes she is the only person who can see what's going on. And then she discovers this kind of secret society at the school that are the descendants of Arthurian legend, and she kind of gets caught up in all of this, and it's amazing, and I love it so much. I read the second half of this book in one sitting. It was so good. This is another Weiner's book actually, but I feel like this, like, again, the school vibes are perfect to read during the fall time, and the magic also, like, I feel like this just fits fall perfectly, and you will just fall in love with Bree. I love fall in love with Bree. Yeah. And she's just such a great character, and I cannot recommend this book enough. If you haven't picked this book up yet, now is the time. Please read it. Thank you very much. Okay, next is another one of my favorite books of all time, but this one's probably like in my top 5 favorite books of all time. I love this book so much. I'm actually planning on rereading this book soon because the second one comes out very soon, so this would be the perfect time to pick this book up so you could binge the first and second book. But I am of course talking about Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis. First of all, this cover, like, does that not give off fall vibes to you? You got the reds, like the deep reds, and the browns and the black. It's just perfect, okay? It's perfect for fall. This follows this girl named Kalia, who is a magician, but in this world, female magicians aren't really respected. Only the men can be show magicians, while the women pretty much are subjected to use their magic for like household things. So yeah, and at the beginning she's kind of in this, I guess a school is the best word for it, or I guess a club, and she is following under the teachings of this guy named Jack, but he is very mysterious, kind of abusive. Like slightly abusive, and she wants more for herself, and she finds out about this magic competition that is happening in a nearby city, so she ends up escaping and going to the city, and Jack basically goes after her. And at the competition there is a judge who I love so much, my baby boy named DeMarco, and it's just such a good book. I love this book so much. I mean, if you couldn't tell, it's in the background of literally all of my videos. Like, I want this book on display forever. I love it so much, and I cannot wait for the second book coming out soon. So I am definitely planning on rereading it and tabbing it, because the first time I read it was on my Kindle, and I'm just so excited. And definitely, like I keep saying, the magic I feel like is very fall-y, and this is not a Phantom of the Opera retelling, but it's definitely inspired by Phantom of the Opera and also Moulin Rouge, and I feel like those two are definitely very fall type movies and shows, so definitely pick this up. Also, the second book was also inspired by Hadestown, which is another show that I feel like has very fall vibes, so yeah, definitely pick this up, especially now. It's the perfect time so you can read the second book, because trust me, once you finish this book you're gonna want to pick up the second book right away, because oh my god, this ends on such a cliffhanger. And yeah, so pick this up. Thank you. We're kind of on a roll right now with books that are my favorites, because the next book is actually one that I read fairly recently, and it's definitely one of my favorite books of the year, and that is Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Boulley. Now, every time I talk about this book, I really don't want to give too much of the synopsis away, because I really feel like it's best going into this book not knowing too much. So all I'll say is there is an aspect of this book that is a pretty big part of the book, but doesn't really start to happen until around 20% of the book, and I feel like that aspect is definitely something that makes sense to read in the fall, because it plays into a genre that people read in the fall. I don't know if that made any sense, but just trust me, okay? Just trust me on this one. Pick this book up. It's so good. Again, one of my favorite books of the year, and I read it recently, but I feel like in the years to come I will definitely be picking this up again in the fall, because just trust me, the vibes are there, okay? So pick this book up and you'll thank me later. Next we have The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss. This follows the daughters of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and they are just trying to solve some mysteries, and they are joined by the daughters of other famous literary characters, and also like Sherlock Holmes and Watson are in this book also. And I feel like, well, first of all, Sherlock Holmes, like, that in itself I feel like is great to read during the fall time, but this book is full of mysteries, and I feel like also just the references to literature is just so cozy and so amazing. I really loved this book, and one of the fun things about this book is that like the story is being told by one of these daughters, and throughout the story some of the other girls like interject and be like, you're not telling it right, or that's not what happened, or blah blah blah. So I feel like that just adds a fun aspect to the book, and if there's ever a time to read a book that's full of mysteries, then I feel like fall is just the perfect time. Okay, we're almost done. The next book I want to talk about is Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. I read this again last fall, and that was the perfect time to read that book, because that book was very spoopy. It is a thriller, and all I'm gonna say, it's about this couple, and they seem very perfect on the outside, and they are kind of joined at the hip. Like, the wife is literally never seen without her husband, so something kind of strange seems to be going on, but you don't really know what until a bit further into the book. And this book is so creepy, like the creepy vibes. This is probably one of the creepiest books I've ever read, so if you're looking for something a little spoopy to read during spoopy season, I definitely recommend this book. I know like a lot of people don't like domestic thrillers. I don't even know, I mean, I guess technically like it is a domestic thriller, but I feel like it's more than that. So if you're turned off by domestic thrillers, I feel like you should still give this one a try. I feel like it's different than your average domestic thriller, so just trust me on this one. It's definitely very spoopy, and I'm a scaredy cat, so it doesn't take much for me to call something spoopy, but just trust me, okay? It's very creepy, and I feel like October time is the perfect time to read this book. And finally we have Sadie by Courtney Summers. This book I read a while ago, but I feel like the fall is the perfect time to read this. Oh my god, this cover is so bright. Now everything is dark. but I feel like fall is perfect time to read this because this follows another murder mystery. This is about this girl named Sadie, and recently her sister was found murdered, and Sadie is pretty sure she knows the man who killed her, and so Sadie kind of disappears in search of the man that she's pretty sure killed her sister. Meanwhile, there is this podcast going on and they are describing Sadie's case and essentially trying to find her. So you're going back and forth between Sadie trying to find her sister's killer and this podcast talking about Sadie's disappearance. So this book is definitely very heavy. I mean, it's not too graphic, I would say, but it talks about murder, and I feel like sexual abuse is also in this book, so just be wary of that before going in. I feel like this is very insidious but very quiet. Like, it is a very quiet murder mystery. It's not like one of those campy murder mysteries, you know, like this is very serious. But again, I feel like the fall is the perfect time to read this. And also I find like even though this cover isn't really fall vibes, like I feel like the red, like something about her hoodie just makes me think like, oh, I should read this in fall, you know? I don't know if that makes sense. Oh my god, I'm so dark. Hello? I would definitely recommend reading this in fall, and I didn't listen to the audiobook when I read this book, but I've heard that the audiobook is amazing, so maybe try listening to the audiobook while like sitting outside enjoying the cool air and watching the leaves change colors in fall. I feel like, fall again, I feel like that would just be the perfect atmosphere for this book. So those are all the books that I recommend that I think give off fall vibes. Let me know what books you guys like to read during the fall and which ones you would recommend for me to read in the fall, because I definitely want to read as many cozy fall vibey books this fall. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to check out all the links in my description. We have important links of things going on in the world, and also all of my links are down there. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon with another video soon. Bye!